Hey friends, so I wanted to walk you through prepping a scenic unit for paint elevations that then we will bring back in as a custom texture. Okay, so we're going to start with this custom textures template that you're going to download off of Blackboard. The project itself is one scenic unit from a set that I worked on from the She Kills Monsters set. You're going to do custom texturing for this floor, the front wrap around, like this facing, and then this upstage wall. Okay. We want to first prep this as if I'm drawing elevations for it, and then we'll export those elevations, and turn them into paint elevations, right? So we're going to export those elevations from Vectorworks into Photoshop, pull them into Photoshop, create paint elevations, and then cycle those paint elevations back up onto the walls of this unit so that you can basically map that texture to the 3D model. Okay, so that's our project. This video is just going to be getting these shapes into Photoshop in scale so that you can then convert them into a Photoshop rendering of what that paint texture should look like. Okay, so let's start by, hold please, it wants to like do a thing. No, it doesn't, it's not even in the right box. Okay, Vectorworks wants to save. That's cool. You can save Vectorworks. It's saving on another surface. Okay, so here is the overview of this unit. Okay, I pulled it straight out of the She Kills Monsters set, so it's not square to the screen. It's at an angle. We're gonna go ahead and break it into a couple of pieces and then draft each of those individual pieces like an elevation so that you can then export those individual views and create your overall paint elevation setup. So I'm gonna go into top plan view, Command 5. Been a minute. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna do is grab this platform. I'm gonna turn it into a symbol. So I'm gonna create a symbol. We're gonna call this platform because there's not multiple platforms. It doesn't need a specific name. So now that platform is a symbol. I'm going to create a new design layer, a new drafting layer in the design layers. So drafting, I will call it. In this drafting layer, I'm going to go grab my platform, double click on it. Come on, baby. You're doing great. I believe in you. Great. And then I'm going to draft it square to, so if I want to make it, instead of at a weird angle, I want to make it basically square. It's not quite there, obviously. So I'm going to rotate it now that I can actually see the object and make that upstage line horizontal. So anytime I was drafting this, this is how I would want to plate it so that it's square to my page when I'm plating it. So that's going to be the most important and mapped view of this piece. If I wanted to do something very specific in terms of my mapping of that facing, I could. But I think for this one, I'm just going to do a texture. So I don't need it to be as specifically mapped to wrap around that set. You can do that, but we're not going to go that far on this one. So I'm going to go back into my scenery layer and I'm going to grab this upstage wall. So I just go on in, take you upstage wall. It's going to include that window, I think. Let's see what happens. We're going to make that into a symbol as well. So I'm going to call this wall. Great, 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 great. Okay, same idea here, where now that that's a wall, I'm going to draft it upstage. And I'm doing this in the like diagonally up the page way so that if I wanted to plate it, they wouldn't intersect with each other. So let's go ahead and grab that wall unit. Here it is. Great. So double clicked on it. It's obviously not really straight. That's close, but I'm going to go in and tweak it now that it's solid to make sure that it's actually square. to my page. Yeah, we're not quite there. So boom, there it is. Great. Okay. So I have now the top view of that platform, which is going to be one of my major deals. And then I'll have the front view of this wall. And I put it on the scenery layer. I actually want it on the drafting layer so that I can turn off the scenery layer and get none of that noise. So great. So now I'm going to go to this drafting layer. I'm going to turn off everybody else. And I'm going to just plate these two things. I'm going to plate them. It doesn't really matter what size, what scale I plate them in. I think I'm going to plate them in 1/2 inch scale because that'll be relatively easy for me to pull back in. And then I can adjust it once I have my new plate back in. Okay, so let's go over here. Let's plate on 11 by 17. I think that it should fit on 11 by 17. So I'm going to go to my drafting layer. I'm going to create a viewport of the top view. I'm going to put it on this 11 by 17, although it should fit on 8.5 by 11. We're going to plate it at, actually, let's plate it at 1/4 inch, and we'll adjust it in the sheet layer. Great. Okay, so this is great, actually, right? So that 1/4 inch shape is now available to me on this plate. I love it. It's great. I'd like to crop it so that it's just my floor. And I'm also going to just ditch that sheet border for now because I don't need it. So let's go in and crop because I'm going to export this as a Photoshop file. So I'm going to go ahead and crop this just around that there platform. Love it. Beautiful. And then I'm going to hop back out of that crop. Exit the crop. Exit the crop. Thank you. Okay. So there it is. Now I have a plate of that shape that I can use in Photoshop. What I am going to do, because I'm going to pull it into to work on it in Photoshop, is I'm going to up my rendering DPI to 300. This will make it sharper as it pulls into Photoshop. So that's a really useful thing. Another thing you can do if you're doing like a floor or something is you can do your whole ground plan as an export and bring it into Photoshop, and then you can have those landmarks of like where your scenic units are and all of that kind of stuff. For now, we're just doing this shape, so we don't need it to be a whole lot more complicated than this. I'm going to go ahead and export this as an image file, and one of my options will be Photoshop right here. We're going to make that resolution 300 pixels per inch, which is like a DPI thing. It's going to give me this page, and let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to call it platform top. Great. And you'll put that in a folder where you can find it. So now I'm going to go in and do basically the same thing. So let me just duplicate this page. And I'm going to do the same thing with my wall because my wall has that. The concept is a chalkboard opening, like a chalkboard or a bulletin board. So it has that, is the basic story. And let's actually switch up to the front view. And then I can adjust my crop accordingly. Let's see if I can find the front of that wall. Ah, perfect. Okay. There she is. Great. If I wanted to, I could also just leave that platform in there just to have a reference point, so I could make a big strip of something to be the texture on that, but we're just gonna kind of go wild. Okay, so now that's my wall shape. Perfect. I'm going to do the same step and export this also as an image file, and that will be Photoshop. So export image file. Hey, hey, hey. Great. Will you just do all the same things? And this is the wall texture. All right, so now those two things are exported. Um, that will allow me to open those two image files in Photoshop, where I'm gonna do a little demo, give you some like of the options in terms of paint. So hop back in for our next video to learn more about using the paint tools in Photoshop to achieve realistic paint effects. Awesome, I'll see you guys soon. Bye.